Hey there guys, it's me, Zalo, and I am back at you with another video, another reaction video. So this time I'm going to be reacting to an ancient alien mask. But the owls are not what they seem, and it's by Taylor McMahon. So this video is already at 24,000 views, which means it's probably very in-depth and detailed and good. This is uploaded 2 weeks ago. So I'm not exactly sure what this is hinting at, but it sounds kind of scary. And I'm always down for some fucking. Sorry, almost cursed. And I'm always down for some freaking, like, scary stuff. Okay. Let's go to it.
At a UFO conference in Laughlin, Nevada, 20 people sat in a circle at an abductee support group and shared their stories. For nearly 2 hours, one man sat in silence. Near the end of the meeting, he finally raised his hand. He asked, "Has anyone in the group ever had an experience involving owls?" Every hand in the room went up. If you follow experiencers at all, you know how different their stories can be.
Involving
They
owls?
see different beings in different crafts, and they often have totally different emotional reactions to what happened to them. But with owls, everybody seems to have a very similar story. It's one of the few things that actually cuts across almost every experiencer. And if you look at UFO media or research, these owl stories are almost completely ignored. And I don't think that's purposeful, but it tells you what the people driving disclosure actually care about. They want hard facts. They want things that can be measured. And owl stories don't give them that.
Create a survey drafted for you from a simple prompt in as little as 30 seconds. As the responses roll in, AI gets to work, uncovering the themes you might otherwise miss. SurveyMonkey, real answers from humans, real
an
insights
unskippable ad.
from AI.
We love those. Gosh, do we?
But these stories do offer something else. They tell us about the minds of the beings that we are interacting with. When you listen to these stories, they feel more like dreams than real events. And I think that says something about how these beings want to be seen in our minds.
You're talking about owls?
And that's what we're looking at today. One of the strangest and most ignored parts of alien encounters: owls.
Think of me as a friend. The question is, where have you gone? The owls are not what they seem.
The owls are not what they seem.
We want to help you.
Thought you would have been talking about dolphins. You know? Dolphins. Because usually people are always like, dolphins do this, they can read minds. Owls? I've always loved owls. I used to talk to an owl when I was a kid. It was just like, ooh, ooh. But he always came every single night to me. And then he would sit in that tree and look down at me and do that, and I'd do it back. And we'd just sit there for like hours doing it back and forth to each other. It was fun. I was a kid. So, and we didn't have phones, so of course anything was fun back then. I haven't seen an owl since I was a kid, though. And I haven't done that since I was a kid. So that's kind of interesting. I've never connected them to anything spooky. I've always thought they were kind of cool, wise.
You will require medical attention.
What?
I want to make a note before we get started that all of the stories I'm sharing tonight come from the great book, The Messengers by Mike Clelland. I'm going to link to it in the comments. What I found so interesting about this book is the more you hear these stories, the harder it is to trust your own eyes, or in a lot of cases, even your own memories.
Oh.
It becomes increasingly clear that we see what they want us to see. And I want to begin by sharing a story about a man from Louisiana. It starts with him just sitting on his porch late one night, and it's dead quiet outside when he notices movement at his tree line. At first he thinks it's just shadows moving in the branches.
But it's an owl man.
But it keeps happening. And and then he sees something pale behind the limbs.
Ew.
So he stands up and walks a little bit closer.
He's like, yo, that thing got long legs. Time to go
As
say
his
what's
eyes
up.
adjust, the shapes start to make sense. He's looking at owls, maybe 15 or 20 of them, all sitting in one tree, and they're all staring at him. And this man was so confused by what he saw that he actually went home and drew the owls from memory. And then he brought those drawings to a local game warden.
I've never seen that
The
many
warden
owls
looked
inside
at
one
all of
cage.
his drawings and he said, quote, "There aren't owls that big here. If that's what you saw, then something's wrong with your memory." For a long time, it was a weird story he'd tell his friends.
Something's wrong with your memory.
But what the game warden said stuck with him. Something is wrong with your memory. And eventually, it bothered him enough that he decided to try hypnotic regression to see if there was anything that he had forgotten.
That's interesting.
So, this man goes to a therapist and starts retelling the story of these owls under hypnosis. First, he remembers sitting on the porch and the trees moving. And then he remembers the rustling in the shadows. Then he's walking towards the tree line. The hypnotist says,
That's not an owl, bud.
"Look at the owls closely. Tell me what you see." He's quiet for a moment, and then he says, "Those aren't owls." Under hypnosis, the whole scene falls apart. He's not looking up into the branches anymore. He's standing alone in the dark with 3 aliens standing around him. Now, you can believe this story or not, but I'll remind you that stories like this are common. And what interests me isn't whether it's true, it's why so many people land on this particular image. Thousands of people have reached into their memory to explain something strange, and they all remember owls. And the owl memories themselves are weird, but they're not terrifying.
I don't get what you
They're
mean.
just weird enough to stick with you. And I think that's the point. If these beings wanted to hide what happened, they could have erased his memory entirely, or replaced it with something boring. They could replace it with a memory that would have been forgotten by the morning. Instead, they gave him giant owls where there shouldn't be giant owls. It is a memory strange enough that you never stop thinking about it.
That's weird.
But what happens when 2 people experience the same event and remember it completely differently? There's another story in this book about a woman and her boyfriend driving down this remote country road at night. They are totally alone. There's no houses, there's no other cars, there's absolutely nothing, just miles of country road. And then they come across something. The woman sees 3 small figures on the side of the road. She remembers them as little kids wearing ghost costumes. She immediately turns to her boyfriend. She says, "What are those kids doing out here dressed like ghosts?" He looks at her and he says, "Those weren't kids. Those were giant white owls." This couple is in the same car looking at the same thing, and they have 2 completely different memories of what they saw.
What is going on?
She saw kids in bedsheets dressed as ghosts, and he saw giant white owls.
That makes
And it gets stranger than that,
So they
because
just
the
want you to
boyfriend
see what
remembers that the
everyone
owls
else
were
sees.
standing underneath a street lamp, but she is certain there were no street lamps. They were in the middle of nowhere. It was a country road. Whatever they saw that night gave them each their own version of the event. It was a screen memory.
Your perfect domain
What is
is
a
out there. Go to Wix
A string?
and make it yours. Claim your space online. Own your name, your brand, your breakthrough. And the rest just clicks. It all starts with a domain.
I
What's
wish I
yours?
could leave. Wix is a good app.
Real quick, YouTube has changed the algorithm. They don't care who you subscribe to anymore, or if you have notifications on.
Have they ever
Your
cared?
feed works like TikTok now. I have subscribers with notifications on who are never notified about my videos. YouTube decides 100% of what you see
I like your
now.
videos.
If you actually want to see my videos, you need to sign up for my newsletter. When I publish, you'll know. It's free, I won't spam you, and you can unsubscribe at any time. Alright, back to the video. But owl memories don't always have to be screen memories. Sometimes they show up before real sightings. There's a story in the book about a man camping in Arizona who kept seeing this owl stare at him from a tree nearby. But every time he tried to point it out to his friends, it would fly away. Then it would come back and stare at him, and he'd try to point it out, and it would fly away again.
That's weird.
After the owl left for the last time, both of the men saw a huge black triangle craft move across the sky right in front of them. There's another strange story from the 1990s about a man named Bert Jansen who was investigating crop circles in Wiltshire, England. During his investigation, he saw a glowing orb float across a field and disappear into an old shed. When he was finally able to get into the shed, he found a nest of baby owls.
I wonder why they chose owls
And you
specifically.
might find this story underwhelming, or maybe all of these stories underwhelming. But I think it tells us something about disclosure that's totally overlooked. These beings aren't making up new symbols, they're using ones that we already know. Owls sit in this strange, almost mystical place in the human mind, and they have for thousands of years. In ancient Greece, the owl was sacred to Athena, and then they put owls on their actual coins. In Rome, the owl was a death omen. If you heard an owl cry at night, it meant that somebody that you knew was going to die. Ancient writers linked the cries of...
That's what I used to tell my mom. I was like, Mom, I talk to an owl every single night. And then she was like, you know, if you see an owl, you stare it in the eyes, then that means death is near for you. And I was like, well, it did happen, so. Because that was like almost 15 years ago. I don't think that idea is truth, but it's an interesting one, that's for sure. I think it's an interesting one.
Of owls to the death of Caesar. In the Cherokee tradition, the great horned owl was tied to witchcraft and death. And then in medieval Europe, owls show up in witchcraft manuals and underworld stories. People would even nail dead owls to their door for protection. Every one of these cultures landed in the same space. Owls are connected to the other side. They sit between this world and the next. Even modern elites seem to understand this. At Bohemian Grove, where some of the most powerful people in the world meet behind closed doors to decide on the direction of society, the central symbol is a 40-foot stone owl. They stand in front of this owl, wearing robes, and burn an effigy as a sacrifice. The ritual is called the cremation of care, and the owl is representative of the demon Moloch, or the Canaanite god associated with certain types of sacrifice. Who knows if they actually believe anything related to this ritual? I strongly suspect that they do. But the point is that they innately recognize the power of that ritual, and specifically the symbol of the owl. So why do I bring any of this up? If you were a being trying to come up with an image to plant in a human mind to say, you are on the edge of reality, why would you create something new? Owls already sit between the worlds. That structure is already built into us. All they have to do is reach in and say, something has happened. Your memory is not what it seems. And I don't think the point is to hide what's happened. I think the point is to be seen. They're telling us, here's a memory, you won't be able to make sense of it, but I want you to sit with it and digest it slowly, because you're not ready to see the real thing yet. They hide the memory, but they make it known that it's been hidden. When people talk about disclosure, they want the full truth. They think it exists somewhere and it's being kept from us. They assume that these aliens are like us, but just more advanced. I don't think that's how it works at all. I don't think anybody has a clean copy. Not governments, not experiencers, nobody. The truth isn't being hidden by elites. The The truth is being staged by whatever these things are. We only know what they want us to know. These things could show us exactly what they are, but they don't. They give us owls and crappy iPhone videos. That's not a failure of disclosure. That is disclosure. You don't get to understand us on your terms. That's what they're saying. You don't get the full picture. You get fragments and symbols and dreams. That's what should scare you. There is no truth that's being hidden. The truth may not even exist in the same way that we think it does. We aren't investigating the phenomenon. We aren't even really experiencing it. There's only...
That is... So, it's just incredibly unique. I don't know. There's something about this that just... there's a lot there. And just saying that they don't want to... Of course they don't really... I don't think they actually want to talk to us. I feel like they're about to do that soon because they have to, or like there's a need to, or something. Whereas before they didn't need to, before they didn't have to. I feel like there is something that's about to happen that is, it's too on the cusp of them being either destroyed or them needing to explain themselves or something like that. Because it feels like I've been hearing more and more about them. Also, I do know that there's supposed to be a staged alien invasion. I remember watching a YouTuber back in like 2015, 2016, around there, when I was in high school, and I remember it being this man that I was watching, he was explaining how he knew for a fact that there's supposed to be an alien invasion that's not real, it's fake, it's part of Project Bluebeam. And then he went on to explain that there will be a blackout of some sort, an earthquake. I'm not sure when the earthquake is supposed to happen, but that destroys a lot of areas, especially in the U.S. And then everybody's kind of all alone and sad for a little bit and don't know what to do. That's when something bad happens. That's more related toward the Bible, if anything, which is pretty unique in itself because not everybody believes in Christianity or Catholicism, but it's more related toward that. So one person stands up and says, I will be the one that you guys will follow me, and then everybody does, not knowing that this person is going to lead us right into the hands of the wolf, and then that ends us up inside of a worse situation. I know there's supposed to be a woman that comes in and is voted in finally, and she changes some things. She helps enlighten us a little bit. Because she was the woman with red high heels or something like that. There's a lot of things that occurs here. There's a lot of hurt and pain. That's what I remember hearing then. But to think that, what if these beings are actually real and they're not just staged? Just to say that they're staged. What if they're actually real, and they're actually coming out here to, try and incite us, to try and explain themselves or try to help us inside of some way. It might not even be during this fake invasion. That might be just what it is, a fake invasion made by the government. And then after that's all done and said and through with, then the real events occurs, and that's when the real aliens that couldn't tell us before can tell us now. They come out and then they explain, well, this is what this is, and we need you guys to get on a higher frequency. We need you guys to get up there and to be more entranced. Just trying to build up humanity. And we don't know. I don't know if any of that stuff is true. These are just some ideas I'm tossing out because, I've been hearing these things for almost a decade now, and I'm like, are they true? They're starting to come true. I mean, the government most certainly has been getting more inside of its alien bag recently, where it's just describing that the aliens are real, and they just bought like alien.org or alien.gov or something I saw yesterday. So that is definitely something. That is something. It is something. Like it's not nothing. That's for sure. Uh,
Whatever they decide to show us, wrapped in a disguise that makes us feel like we understand them a little bit more. We are children in front of a TV, watching whatever show they decide to put in front of our eyes. And I think they're just getting started. If you enjoyed this episode and want to hear more stories about the lost and forgotten part,
I also think they're just getting started. Like they've probably been at this for a while. They know what they're doing, and we don't. And they kind of want to tell us what to do. That's the vibe I've been getting. Um, have I had alien experiences before in my life? Yes, when I was a kid, me, my sister, and my mom. We all did. All three of us together. It was at the same time. And I think I even shared that story before in one of my past videos on this channel. So if you watch my videos, you probably heard the story. Um, yeah. Okay, tell me what you think in the comments. Tell me if you have any more recommendations for me to watch in the comments as well. This is insane. And I don't know where the world is headed. I just hope it's somewhere positive. Okay? Okay, I guess that's basically everything. Have a good day.